Okay, so let's talk about some of the major business trends going into 2020 that we as entrepreneurs should really be keeping our eyes on and paying attention to. Because one of the most important things in business is that we've got to be aware of what's trending, what's on the rise, and we've got to be able to essentially have our ear to the ground so we can make sure we're operating with the right strategies and in the right place that's going to enable us to catch those trends and grow our businesses with them. Now, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video has come from the National Achievers Congress in Birmingham at the NEC. I was there recently with Gary Vee, Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, Russell Brand was there, a bunch of other marketers as well. And Gary Vee and Ty Lopez, whether you like them or not, or whether you agree with them or not, you cannot disagree with the fact that they are major influences and leaders in their respective spaces. And one of the things that both of them have really stressed and really put a lot of their focus and attention into, and also accredit and attribute their success to as well, is their ability to catch trends, be aware of trends, and know what is trending so that they can make sure that they're operating in line with that. So I'm going to touch on some of those things in this video. Now, as you're watching, if you like it, if you get an insight, if you get a takeaway, if you have a comment or a perspective to add, maybe a trend that you've been keeping your eyes on that you think could be the next big thing, then comment below because I'd love to hear from you. Let's start a bit of a conversation going around that. What's your biggest trend going into 2020 that you're going to be keeping your eyes on? And as you're watching as well, if you like it and you want more videos like this, do hit subscribe down below and hit the little notification bell beside the subscribe button as well. And you'll get a reminder every time one of these videos goes live, which is multiple times per week, either to do with online business, business in general, or mindset. All right, so let's dive in. So if we look at the world 10 years ago, even just 10 years ago, 1 decade, completely unrecognizable in so many ways. I mean, platforms like Instagram, apps like Uber, for example, didn't even exist. Bitcoin, brand new, nobody had heard of it. Cryptocurrency wasn't a thing. If you wanted to build a website, you pretty much had to be a master coder to get something decent that integrated with any platforms. And that was if you could even find platforms that, you know, you could tie into websites. Building something as simple nowadays as a sales funnel was like a really complex undertaking unless you had like programming or coding experience. Things now are so much more connected, so much more easy to use, so much of a lower barrier to entry than it's ever been before. I mean, like perfect example is 10 years ago, drones. Barely even a thing. I mean, now you can get a drone for a few $100s that's got more technology and it's more intelligent than the NASA rocket that first went to the moon, right? There's more tech in this than has ever been in anything remotely similar prior to that a decade ago. Okay, so think of that. And also things like this, a robot vacuum cleaner, a couple $100, like that couldn't have existed 10 years ago. There's new tech that's popping up left, right, and center that is just utterly, like, so much more advanced than anything ever has been before. So the point is that the world we're living in and the technology that completely, you know, forms a part of and integrates with the world that we're living in is rising and improving and scaling and changing so much quicker than it ever has before. All right, so let's talk about a few of these trends that I believe, and that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on going into 2020. So number one is blockchain and cryptocurrency. And by the way, this is in no particular order. Now, as I'm going through this, like for a lot of you guys watching, you might be, let's say, a lot more expert in crypto and blockchain than I am, which is not hard. So I'm not going to try and do like a full in-depth technical explanation of how everything works. But in super simple terms, the word blockchain consists of a block, which is digital information, and a chain, which is a public database. And the way that it works is that if a transaction occurs on a blockchain, and by the way, a transaction doesn't need to just be monetary, like a coin or a token. It can also be contract-based, like there's a cryptocurrency called Ethereum, which utilizes smart contracts, and the applications in many different industries, from medical to banking to automotive, like there's lots of different ways to use blockchain technology, essentially if it involves the distributing of information that you want to be secure and almost unhackable. Now, there's a survey, and this is why this is relevant, and this is certainly why we should be keeping our eyes on this and putting more time into learning about it, as I probably need to explain it better going into 2020. There's a survey from Professional Services Network, Deloitte, where they surveyed 1,000 companies across 7 countries about integrating blockchain into their business operations. Their survey found that 34% of these 1,000 companies already had a blockchain system in production today, while another 41% expected to deploy a blockchain application within the next 12 months. Now, the significance of this is that if all of these big businesses are already so heavily invested into blockchain, and by the way, they also said, in addition, nearly 40% of the surveyed companies reported they would invest $5 million or more in blockchain in the coming year. That is a lot of money and a lot of focus by big businesses being put into the application of this technology. Now, the application is that because it is decentralized and because it's extremely fast compared to other like-for-like systems in different industries, and I'll touch on this in a sec, but because of various components, blockchain technology is far more efficient generally than its counterparts. For example, banking. There's a company developed a protocol called XRapid. Their token is called Ripple. You can buy Ripple on a lot of the big exchanges like Coinbase. And again, super simple explanation. A lot of the big banks, like I think Barclaycard, Santander, I think Bank of China, a lot of the big banks are now using the XRapid protocol for their payment transfers, especially for large sums of money. Now, compared to traditional SWIFT transfers or CHAPS payments or at the smaller level, faster payments or BACS, XRapid is super quick, super efficient, very secure and very cheap. Right? It's an innovative and disruptive technology which big banks, I can't remember the stats, but one big bank said they projected 16 billion in savings annually, and Santander, I think, predicted 20 billion in savings annually by more efficient payments. In the medical industry, there's technology which utilizes blockchain called smart contracts. And there's a coin called Ethereum, which, again, I'm not going to get too technical here, but smart contracts is essentially where you're using blockchain to verify and securely store, it's probably not the right word, but information can be securely and anonymously stored on a blockchain and it can't be altered or infringed upon or messed with or anything like that. And so, for example, if you wanted to securely and anonymously store your medical records so that they were in, this is not smart contracts, but yeah, medical record application can be used for in the medical industry. And smart contracts would be, an example of that would be if you want to create a secure environment where if something happens, i.e. a person pays a deposit, then an access to something is released automatically. Smart contracts you can use blockchain technology to automate that service. Terrible explanation. The point is that this technology is going to become widespread in the next 5 to 10 years to the point where we won't even talk about blockchain. In the same way that we don't even really, you don't even talk about the internet anymore. The internet's just there. It's just part of our life. We don't need to talk about it. Everyone knows what it is. And so blockchain technology is definitely going to be something to keep our eyes on moving forwards. And I would say, again, I'm not an expert, but I've invested a fair amount of money into cryptocurrency and different coins and tokens with long-term utility. Because I feel at the moment when you look at the charts, and I use something called tradingview.com to look at charts for different cryptos and so on and so forth, we are at a very, very prime time to be investing in these coins. I actually got in and started looking at this at the wrong time. It's like December 2017, which if any of you have spent time in crypto for a while, you'll know that was like the all-time high, and then we had the lull, and then we went through another little spike recently, and now we're at the bottom of a trough again. But the point is, if you're going to get into it, this is kind of the equivalent of the post-dot-com boom of the internet, and then look at what happened in the 15 years after that. All right, so that's my number one. All right, so number two is AI. Now, AI, again, I'm not saying learn how AI works, because I'm sure that's extremely complex and would be very time consuming, but I would certainly be starting to pay attention to the applications of AI and how AI affects our day-to-day lives. Right, look at Alexa, for example. Look at how that technology is going to improve. You know, Forbes predict that 2 billion jobs are going to be lost to AI and automation in the next 20 years alone. What's going to happen to those people? What new markets are going to open up? What new needs, pains, problems in people's lives are going to open up? How's the world, the changing world, going to impact the lives of the average person? And where can we slot in to provide value and help people improve their lives? Right, so AI and the applications of AI technology, looking at how it affects different industries and things that we use in our day-to-day life. How can we use that or leverage that in our business, and what opportunities could be opening up as a result of that? Okay, so powerful thing to pay attention to going into 2020. Number three is going to be social platforms, and in particular looking at it through the lens of how we as humans now connect with each other and how we use our phones in our day-to-day life. Because if you look at, sit in your average coffee shop or go on the subway or the tube or whatever and just look at the world, look at what's happening. Now, whether you agree with it or not, the fact of the matter is almost everyone's sitting there on their phone. How are they using it? How are they interacting with people? What, platforms are they spending their time on? How are they using those platforms? And then in particular, pay attention to what platforms are like the ones that have been around for a very long time, like the giants in the space, for example, YouTube and Instagram. It's a lot harder nowadays to rank content or really become significant on those platforms, as I know from experience doing these videos. So YouTube and Insta would be like two of the big players in the space. But then you more want to look as well at like what are the potential up and coming platforms. So Gary Vee has been talking about TikTok, for example, for about the last year. I'm starting to pay attention to it. I've actually set up a TikTok account earlier this morning. And the point is, it's very easy, particularly in the sort of millennials generation, to look at these platforms like Snapchat and like TikTok and like Vine when it came out, for example, and say, oh, that's just for the kids. I'm beyond that. I'm like a serious business person. I don't need to look at these platforms. But the fact of the matter is that these platforms, these up and coming platforms, this is the equivalent of if you were to be on Instagram in 2011, 2012, 2013, or whenever it first started, think of how much organic reach you could have got back then, and think of how big your audience would be now if we paid attention to that platform when it was brand new. TikTok is like 2012 Instagram, right? So, and by the way, they have, I think, 500 million users. Age demographics are 18 to 24, and second biggest is 24 to 30, if I remember correctly. So definitely worth looking into. And my team in Scrap the 9 to 5, we're going to start putting a lot more focus into, TikTok. And another one that Gary Vee is talking about, and a few other marketers in the space are talking about, is LinkedIn. The way LinkedIn works is changing, and he reckons the organic reach and the potential to grow an audience on LinkedIn at the moment is bigger than it has ever been before. I don't yet know the ins and outs of exactly why that is. He said it, I'm repeating it, I'm going to be looking into it, but LinkedIn is something that, again, we're starting now, we're already doing it. We're starting as a team to push our YouTube content, Scrap the 9 to 5 YouTube content, out onto LinkedIn as a platform. Right, so I try and keep my ear to the ground about what are the guys, the visionaries in the space, like what is it they're seeing, what are they paying attention to, and why are they paying attention to it, and then starting to research why that is and seeing if we can adapt and leverage that in our strategy as well. And number 4 to pay attention to, I believe, is connectivity. And what I mean by that is looking at how everything that we use in our day-to-day life is very, very quickly becoming more integrated and more automated. So, look at how different apps and different systems now communicate with each other effectively and easily, how they integrate together. what implications would this have in business? What opportunities would this open up in business? If you no longer need to try and, use like API or hire a developer to somehow messily hash together and link together a whole bunch of different systems so they speak to each other, and you can, pass data from like Infusionsoft to Salesforce in your email, and send out emails that then tag people through Zapier to a scheduling system where they can book appointment. It can be a mess. Look at how the connectivity aspects and the way these systems communicate with each other automatically is improving. And the more that you can start to leverage this and let go of the belief that it's, really difficult to set up complex tech behind the scenes in your business, because it no longer is. It doesn't even need to be complex. The fact is that things that were not accessible 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, are well within reach of people with literally no experience. Okay, so again, look at the world, look at how you use the apps on your phone, how they speak to each other, how they communicate. Look at the tech that's going into them, like, Facebook and Instagram obviously together. Look at how they're partnering with things like, Uber. You've got Apple Pay. How does Apple Pay integrate with different systems? Like, how are they all speaking together? And if we can start to just be aware that that's happening, we can start to potentially see where we could leverage that in our businesses as well. And then number 5, which in my opinion and also past experience of the last 3 years is the most important, is you've got to educate yourself in building businesses using the internet. The days of brick and mortar business and having to set up a company in a physical location or opening a franchise, buying a warehouse, the barrier to entry nowadays is so low and it's so comparatively straightforward to build a business just using a laptop, literally from anywhere in the world in your spare time. We've got to be educating ourselves on the technology and the strategies that enable us to build a business in this way. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is you look at how business is done now, where it is value driven and value focused. Gone are the days where someone would put a little teaser of their content on social, and then it's like, if you want to learn more, you go ahead and buy my course, and then people just rush in to buy their course for $500. Landscape's changing. So much of what everyone's doing and what we're doing in Scrap the 9 to 5 and what the influencers like Gary Vee and everyone like that are doing is about value-driven content, right? You look at what they're putting out there, for free on YouTube, and the key is that the illusion that succeeding is about what you know is starting to disappear. Success is nothing to do with what you know. It's nothing to do with learning the next best strategy or the next best technique. I'll give you an example. Every single one of us over the age of 7 knows how to get in good shape, right? You eat less and healthier and you exercise more. That's it. We all know how to do it, yet so few of us are in fantastic shape. I'm not. So few of us are in fantastic shape, despite the fact that we know exactly what to do. And yet for decades, we've been living under this illusion that if we just knew the next best strategy, or if we just had the right tactic or the right training, then it would be all right. It's bullshit. So nowadays, I think the business owners that are embracing this and no longer, fueling this illusion that it's about what you know by selling just another training course or something like that. The landscape's changing. You can get so much content for free on these platforms, but what you know and the knowledge in these content is nothing to do with whether someone succeeds or not. There's a lot more than that. It's to do with accountability, it's to do with mentoring, surrounding yourself with the right people, the shift in mindset that's required, commitment. There's a lot of different things that are going to contribute towards success, and knowledge is almost one of the least important, right? And again, I want to be clear, we're talking about this in the right context, because obviously the right knowledge applied correctly is going to give you a lot of value and move you forwards in business very powerfully. But the key is that just telling someone knowledge, that's not going to create success. Right? It's knowledge when applied effectively. And it's that application and creating an environment within yourself and around you that enables action in the right direction. That's really one of the things that's going to matter. So anyway, my point of this is that educating yourself in online business, educating yourself in how to be an entrepreneur, how to think the right way, how to act the right way, how to show up with the right habits in your life, and so on and so forth. Super important. And what started me on this journey was an online education community that enabled me to figure out exactly how to do this myself. I'll pop a link in the description, or you can see it in the top corner. If you want to join them too, again, I'm a product of the product. 3 years ago, I started an online business with this education, and that was the springboard that enabled me to start building the companies that I've built, building the team that I've built, putting this kind of stuff out on YouTube and growing the brand and the businesses as well, right? So I believe that whatever you do to educate yourself, do something to really start to learn online business, particularly e-commerce and affiliate marketing are two very powerful ways in to begin to get traction and learn the skills required. All right, so thanks for watching. I really hope this has helped. As I say, those are some of the 5 areas that I will continue putting my focus going into 2020 for trends of what's up and coming over the next 5 to 10 years. If you've enjoyed this video, if you've got something from it, hit like down below. And also if you have any other trends, anything else you pay attention to, anything you think I've missed, pop it in the comments. Let's start a bit of a discussion around what you feel is important going into 2020 in business. And finally, if you've enjoyed this, hit subscribe. I do multiple videos like this every single week. So hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then you'll get a reminder whenever one of them goes live. All right, thanks very much for watching. Really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.